Yuri 3rd. Blood Moon. The light of the blood moon penetrated the room through loosely drawn curtains, painting all the items in the room in ominous crimson tones. Billy Sullivan went to the window and looked out. Huge, shining, in the center of the night sky lit up the street, rich red color. And it seemed that everything around, roofs of houses, sidewalks, cars drenched in blood. Brush his right hand, the one that leaned on the window sill, suddenly turned out at an impossible angle, and the body went cramp. He looked at his fingers with horror and surprise, and again his body was swept by a wave of spasms. Joints bent unnaturally. The skin began to grow thick wool. He tipped back and the room disappeared. 4 legs silently carried the night predator forward with unthinkable speed for humans. The smells of the night forest got drunk and drove crazy. He felt the flavors of herbs, land, and even last year's foliage, but the smell of game beckoned him forward. That mix of fear, sweat, and blood he felt the brightest. Young Doe raced somewhere ahead, almost not sorting the roads, barely alive in horror. But the touch of human consciousness made the Wolf stop. Gray brothers raced past him. Wolf shook his head as if trying to throw off the faint that found him. Somewhere in the distance, noisy cars. The wind carried scraps of sharp gasoline amber. Very near was a human city. He already heard the dog's bursting bark, but still went forward led. Some scraps of human memory. It seemed the outskirts of the city behind the fence was flooding Lime Dog. Somewhere behind his back he heard a long, full of sorrow song fellow. Looks like Lang left the stalkers. Hunt failed and family stay hungry or not. For some reason he was not afraid of any city, neither dogs, and some mixed half-wolf, half-human consciousness made a decision. Behind the back, there was a ringing howl of the leader collecting pack, but he went forward to the fence of the human habitation. In some powerful fungi paws, he dug up the ground and crawled into the fenced area. Dog, large pit bull terrier, went into barking. In 2 strokes of their 5-centimeter fangs, he silenced her. Then slowly gnawed over a pink collar with spikes, holding her on a chain, and dragged the carcass into the forest. Pack, happy with unexpected gift, started eating. A leader appeared. With his own kind he drove them away from the prey, but he was not interested in meat. He, with a formidable growl, headed straight to disobeyed his pack member, who did not appear at the call. The young wolf was looking for. The wool on his neck stood on end, but after a short furious fight he lost. Instinct told him to fall on his back and pull his paws up, exposing vulnerable belly and throat, and tempt begging for forgiveness. "What are you tagging, Billy? Wake up." A 15-year-old sat on a bed. It was just a scary dream. Nightmares again. The mother sat next to him on the bed. Yes, only this time everything was so real. "It's time for you to get ready for school, Billy. The bus will be in 15 minutes. Didn't you hear the alarm clock?" He looked at the clock next to the bed and wanted to jump up right away, but he came to his senses in time and looked questionably at his mother. That woman's eyebrows went up. "I need to get dressed," and understood everything. "I leave." Her heels were clipped on the steps of the stairs. Billy jumped out of bed and pulled his pants. And gray sweater, mirror in the middle of the room, reflected his skinny body and ruffled hair, pale face. Sharp cheekbones, an ordinary appearance for a young man his age. Except green eyes, surrendered to yellowness, could attract someone's attention to him. When he went downstairs to the kitchen, breakfast is already almost cold on the table. Listen, moms. And when it happened to the father, he didn't tell anything strange, mystical. Well, he didn't have nightmares. Or son. We have discussed this 100 times. Your dad had an accident. He suffered sleepwalking, walked in his sleep, when he accidentally wandered into Mr. Hedgen's plot. He mistook him for a robber and shot with a gun. Not aiming, unfortunately. It was enough for that hand of accident. But nothing like that will happen to you. You're still taking your pills. Buzzed the bus horn. Who came to the house and gathered students. I need to run, moms. While Billy was pulling on his jacket and looking for sneakers, the bus horn sounded twice more. Inside, the bus was already almost full. Best seats in the front were taken. Local team players and others. Popular personalities of the school. The middle went to those who at least somehow could stand up for themselves in this community. And on galleries, where he has already seen his fellow misfortunes. Frail boy with glasses with huge diopters, named Zach Levinsky, located the weakest. Zach kept a seat for him next to him, taking him backpack, and smiled all over his mutilated brace's mouth. Looks like he was the only one genuinely happy to see Billy today. The bus from the students met him with a judgmental silence. Calmly reach to his seat on the bus he couldn't. Somewhere in the middle of the way, a soccer ball flew into his head, ringing. And ringing is quite possible, was just in his head. Hey Billy Sullivan, what the hell, we have to wait here for you, shouted the domineering voice of an older boy. You should be standing at the stop by now when the bus comes. Emma T.T. Hygen's hefty soccer player. Team leader. He pulled up from his seat at the start of the bus and towered above him. Exactly mountain. He was 2 years older. Taller than him by a whole head and twice as wide in the shoulders. His wide hemp face glowed with joy every time when he could humiliate anyone at school. Behind his back, Billy saw the smirks of the rest of the team players. Serve me the ball. Billy Hygens pointed at the ball. Bounced off his head. Leave him alone, Matt. This filed the voice of Emmy Kimmel, sitting in the second row. Her friend was not there yet, and she sat alone. Golden-haired blonde girl. Girl dream, for a date with which Billy without hesitation would give a decade of life. Let him go, repeated the unexpected defender of Billy. Serve me the ball, Billy repeated Matt Hitchens. It will be worse. The worst thing was that all this was happening in front of her eyes. Billy leaned in and picked up the ball, resolutely stepped to Matt, gave it right to my hands. Turning around, Billy went to his place, but the ball flew into his head again. Serve me the ball, Billy reproclaimed Matt. Son of that same Mr. Hedgens that years ago he shot his father in the yard of his house, rocked pointing on the ball while the first rows of the bus frankly laughed. The middle ones watched the unfolding spectacle with interest. And everyone in the gallery was happy. What is it not? He turned out to be the one in whom the ball flew today. Billy slowly leaned in and took the ball again. Today, he was not the same himself. Smells of forest and taste of blood on lips were still so fresh in memory. Matt hung over him, for sure a mountain. Huge, muscular. Confident in his superiority. Definitely that dog in front of the wolf in the yard. Matt extended his hand, demanding the ball. Billy threw the ball up and, making sure that the athlete was distracted by him, what was the strike? Hit a football player with his knuckles in the apple. Billy didn't know why he did that. Did not know that this technique would work. Maybe he peeped him in an old karate movie. The ball, flying between the huge palms of the country guy, fell on the floor, and the formidable rival bent in half and coughed, catching air with my mouth. Raise your ball yourself, dork, whispered by Billy. What are you doing? What devil is going on? A crowd of football players jumped from their seats, and with a whistle and screams moved behind his leader. Down the aisle, someone pushed Billy in the chest. Yeah, so he almost fell. From somewhere on the side, a blow flew, and he tasted blood on his lips again. I don't know what would happen next, but... Welka sat down all in place. Rippled voice from the driver's seat. and Mr. Feature's head appeared in the salon. He was wearing an old army jacket as always, with sometimes medals earned in war. He once could not find yourself in civilian life and worked as a school bus driver for a long time, 20 years. However, despite life's failures, because of powerful physique and cool temper, he enjoyed unquestioned authority among football players. All team members scattered to their seats. "You and Billy," wheezed Matt. Today behind school, after lessons, he flopped on the seat next to Emmy. Hugging her, girl tried to pull away, but he only pulled her closer to him. And more she didn't resist, putting my head on his shoulder. "And you, Sullivan, that you need to repeat twice." The voice of the feature thundered again, and Billy finally took his place. "In vain you are so, oh in vain," spoke Zach. "You need to run into punishment at school. Stay after lessons. To don't date him." Zach seemed to have a rescue plan ready already. "I once so didn't give him breakfast, and then got measles. And in 2 weeks, when discharged, he didn't even remember it. Blessing the jocks don't have a very strong memory." Zach ducked into his smartphone. "OH, and today is a party at Teddy Hoffman." He posted a tweet about it online. "With morning invited everyone. Let's go, there will be fun. Beer girls, everyone will come for sure." Billy looked at Zach. Like this little man, most often attacked, manages to never be discouraged. "Don't know, Zach. I would survive today. Then I will think about the evening." The school hallway was noisy and full of people. Everyone was busy with their own business. Someone was talking to friends, exchanging news. Someone went to the meta classes. Someone was taking school supplies. And the locker school buzzed like a hive, obeying their laws. "Party at Teddy Hoffman" was the main subject of discussion, and about the morning incident, no one already remembered or paid attention to the bill. Forgot about this and himself. Collecting books, he closed his locker door and headed to English class. Literature, and unexpectedly, at the turn of the book, knocked out of his hands, crumbled on the floor. Today after school, Billy Sullivan. Matt and his friends walked by, just a glimpse of the teacher, on duty in the corridor, and Billy collected books and entered his class. Now forget about that. What awaits him after lessons, he will not succeed. All thoughts annoyingly twirled around the stage, his possible beating by the football team. And as Spike did not come to mind a single thought, how to avoid it. If it wasn't happening to him, then he would surely come up with something. But it happens exactly to him, and his brain seemed to unhook. English teacher, elderly full woman with a tight bunch of hair on her head, broadcast something about the early work of Ernest Hemingway, what Billy could not focus on. "Hey Billy." It was Zach. He sat at the last desk in the same row, separated by only half a meter passage. "Remember Betty?" "Well, Betty Pit Bull Terrier Thompson's. She still drove us on bikes to the outskirts of the city when we delivered newspapers. Well, when an old alcoholic, Mr. Thompson, forgot to put her on the chain. Remember? Look what they write." He handed out Billy's smartphone. The caption on the screen read, "A pack of wolves ripped apart a pet dog on the outskirts of town." Further went more detailed description. "And the outrage of citizens by inaction. Wildlife Capture Services." They are under the text picture. "Bloody yard and snacked pink collar." That same collar, what he saw in his dream last night. By surprise, he let the smartphone out of his hands, and he fell right into the aisle. Mrs. Smith instantly turned around, and her little eyes lit up with righteous anger. "You are not interested in English literature, Mr. Sullivan," clenching narrow lips, pronounced she. "No, Mrs. Smith." There was a joyful laugh in class. Billy realized he said something wrong and corrected himself. "That is yes, Mrs. Smith." A new wave of fun rolled around the class. "Stand up when the teacher talks to you. And once so, Mr. Sullivan, you will stay after lessons until you decide whether you like it or not." And that was a rescue. It came from a completely unexpected side. Mtt Hygens will not waste his time on that. To wait for his punishment to end. After lessons he was saved. Billy was ready to kiss Mrs. Smith on her flabby cheeks. Punishment dragged slowly. Time crawled like a snail, but still it was better than being beaten up in the backyard of the school in front of everyone. Hemingway's book stood in front of him on a stand, open somewhere in the middle, but he couldn't focus on reading. Read at least the page, and just look through her, until the duty teacher gets tired of walking in the rows and did not sit in his seat. Then Billy pulled his smartphone out of his pocket. Blessing Mrs. Smith seized Zach's phone, thinking that he belongs to Billy, and so he was able to keep access to the internet. Punishment immediately lost all meaning, because despite that his body was still locked in the classroom, his consciousness ended up at will, unhindered, walking around the world network. In search engine, he typed "sleepwalking bloody werewolf moon." The first link brought him to the site magic.com. The title of the article read, "Bloody full moon this Friday." A blood moon is a rare astronomical phenomenon. Last-time residents, Americans, could observe him in 2015. It was that year when they shot their father, thought Billy. Next time the full moon will show its sinister face to the world, the 7th of September 2025. So stop, it's the same tonight. First time this phenomenon was studied and recorded, the Italian astronomer Giovanni Schiaparelli. For the past 5,000 years, the blood moon appeared in the sky 142 times at the same time, 1,582nd and 1,908. For years there was none, and in the interval from 1,909 to 2,156, there are going to be as many as 17. By the way, us 21st century residents are lucky. In the coming decades, there will be 6. The Canadian Astronomical Society reported that blood moon will reappear on the horizon at 2032-33rd years, and then in the 43rd and 44th. Ancient people believed that impact blood moons can cause initiation, magical abilities, manifestation of werewolf, sleepwalking, and other paranormal phenomena. During sleep, mind control weakens and gives way to the unknown in our world. It is completely uncontrolled by the man himself and can be dangerous. The only way to avoid exposure to bloody moons per person exposed to its influence completely eliminate sleep for this period. Amusingly famous, the witch hunt began in the 15th century in Europe and ended here on the American continent in the 19th century, exactly in that when there were no blood moons in the sky. Maybe moon, and really somehow related with the manifestations and power of magic in our world. Decided he further. Billy opened the pages of the site dedicated to sleepwalking and werewolf. Links to them were here at the bottom of the article. The influence of the moon on the human psyche is not fully understood. With he is associated with such a disease. Sleepwalking is a condition in which a person performs various kinds of actions in a dream, completely unconsciously, and waking up in the morning, man doesn't remember anything about them. This is stress-related, overwork, and other causes. May also be accompanied by epileptic seizures, apnea, and other reactions. Being treated, mainly prescribing sleeping pills and sedatives. Adherents of traditional medicine claim that increased disease may be due to the phases of the moon, as well as lunar eclipses, and aggravated by manifestations of blood moons. Werewolf. In mythology, magical change of appearance, mostly temporary transformation, with follow back to the original look. Motive obviously based on totemic views. The incarnation of the human soul in a double zoanthropomorphic nature. Some mythological characters, Europeans and East Slavs. The term is closely related to representation about turning a man into a wolf. Time for reading flew unnoticed. Alarm went off on duty teacher watch. The end of punishment. And he stood up by himself, allowed to diverge everyone else. Billy with a rowing book from the table to the backpack, hurried away from school. So you just have to try not to sleep these days. He decided to stay awake while the sky rains blood-red moon and everything. Then I can go back to normal without sleepwalking, nightmares, and without any emotional breakdowns. When he went outside, the whole school football team was waiting for him. Damn, today is Friday, and they had training after lessons. How could I forget? Flashed through his head. That Billy didn't expect that. I will solve your plan, shouted Matt Huygens under the approving, lulling crowd. Matt pushed Billy in the chest. That one fell. And when falling, he started having an epileptic seizure. He crammed in convulsions on the grass. Don't pretend, act like a man. Foot in a heavy football boot hit a boy in the stomach, but it went unnoticed. Convulsions continued. Through swarm of football players, broke through Mrs. Rosie's school nurse. Part you that do not see him having a seizure, that y'all act like animals. Help it flip. He came to his senses in the hospital room. Tubes were pulling out of his nose. There was a drip needle sticking out in the vein, and next to the bed sat Mother. And when he opened his eyes, she cried of joy. The way you scared me. She took his hand. I would not survive if this happened to you. A doctor entered the room. What were the cases? The doctor smiled. You need to rest properly, guy. Now I will put a sedative and you will fall asleep. 10 hours of sleep, what you need now. The doctor went to the drip and something injected a syringe. Stand, I can't sleep by. At Sky tried loosely protest Billy, but his eyes immediately closed. The wolf pulled in the night air with his nose. Again flavors filled his mind. Colored rainbow sensations. Somewhere in the distance music was playing. He went to the sound, already driven by human thoughts and desires. Somewhere very close to him, laughing past a couple of drunk teenagers, leaving nausea in the air, the scent of vape and alcohol. The source of music was getting closer, and the human part of his consciousness recognized home, to which he went. Teddy Hoffman party at Teddy today. Far in the woods, forgot the leader again collecting the pack. Young Wolf wanted to go to the call, but his sensitive sense of smell caught the smell of Emmy Kimmel. First beauty of school. She was somewhere here. He recognized her by the scent of vanilla and lilac, her spirits hanging in the air. She was sitting in a gazebo next to some guy. He came closer to inhale her scent, but he was interrupted by the smell of alcohol coming from the guy next to him, and he heard scraps of phrases. Matt, no, let, or I'll scream. Yes, let's stop breaking. No, I will not wait until graduation as some loser. Then there were some rustles, and she tried to scream, but her mouth seemed to be closed with the palm of her hand. The music drowned her out completely. A wolf appeared out of the dark for literally a second, grabbing the guy hanging over the girl by the neck and dragged back, throwing his body over the railing of the gazebo, which tumbling fell to the ground. Heard a deaf growl and crunch of the vertebrae. The girl jumped up and ran faster than Lonnie to the house, where music was playing and people were having fun by the pool. Wolf, she screamed. My God, Wolf. There, he grabbed Mito. People began to appear from the house. Someone dedicated a flashlight towards the gazebo, but the wolf was no longer there, only the crippled body of a Mito hut. The wolf is back to the pack, and the first thing he heard was a threatening growl of the leader. He was coming at him with a formidable gray mass, and a beta male spun behind his back, nervously Pasculevi. The young wolf did not come to the call again. He will be waiting for a serious thrashing. Fall in front of him and whine. He is waiting for exactly this. But today, when it was only 5 minutes ago, felt the taste of blood on my teeth. Its main enemy man. He had slightly different plans. Yes, he fell on his back, but when the leader approached, confident in his superiority, carelessly opened his neck. The young wolf clung to her. The leader twitched, trying to reset the grip, but only helped the opponent to get up. Jaws closed tightly. They've been spinning for a while, until the leader was exhausted and his legs bent. Young Wolf gnawed even tighter, clenching jaws even tighter, until the leader on the ground is quiet, stopping breathing. Wolves forgot the greeting of the new leader, and a red moon came out over the forest, and Wolfman joined their song. Losing all control over your emotions. Sunlight was making its way through closed eyelids, and Billy opened his eyes. He was lying in the middle of a forest clearing in a hospital gown, covered in blood. Next lay a torn, swallowed rabbit carcass. Damn! Billy jumped to his feet. There was no one else around, neither wolves nor humans, and he did not understand where he was at all. Not finding any injuries on his body, he somehow oriented by the sun, and a couple hours later came out to the highway. City, if you believe the road signs, was 10 kilometers away. He went down the highway, trying to stop passing cars sometimes, but drivers seeing smeared from head to toe in blood. Barefoot teenager in hospital pajamas drove by, only increasing speed. No one wanted to mess with him. No one wanted the problem of extra explanation with the police. Walking into town, he had already wiped his legs and dreamed only of coming home, take a bath, and then end up in your bed. Passers-by, when Billy walked the streets, stopped and whispered, pointing fingers at him. A couple blocks later, a sheriff's car stopped next to him. The sheriff came out of the car in his wide-brimmed hat, and his assistant. Billy thought that salvation finally came, and went straight to them. Now he will be taken home, and he will end up in his bathroom. That's just him being stopped by a shout-out. "What are you doing, son? Whose blood is this?" The sheriff grabbed his gun by the handle and ordered Billy, "Lay on the ground." Billy put his hands up and obeyed. He was handcuffed and put in a car. A few minutes later, they were already in the precinct. The sheriff took his fingerprints and led him to the camera, where the sad man in the biker jacket was already sitting. Rumors apparently instantly sprawled across a small town. Therefore, biker, barely noticing the boy, screamed, "Hey, sheriff! What is going on? You put him to me." Mans was clearly alarmed. He snagged the guy. "Half the city is gossiping about this. He's the damn son of a werewolf. Sober Thompson. The faster you sober up, the faster you get out of here," shouted on him sheriff. He opened the cage and pushed in Billy inside and closed it again. Biker moved away from teenager and sat down at the far end of the camera. The sheriff walked into his office with glass partitions and picked up the phone. "I need transportation to transport high-risk criminals. Today to evening," he said loud. "Yes, thanks, we are waiting." Sheriff, with a sense of accomplishment, he sat in a chair and wanted to take up the newspaper. Like to the station, ringing the bell on the front door. 3 aggressively minded men have entered. One of them is clearly the largest, was Mr. Hedgens, the one that shot Billy's father. Brushing off the assistant, he immediately went to the sheriff's office. "Give it to us, sheriff." "Here." Mr. Hedgens' eyes expressed malice and sorrow at the same time. It was clear that he was mourning his son, and it was hard for him to speak. But at the same time, rage was boiling inside him, ready to spill out volcano. "I can't do it, Tom. He's under the protection of the law." Sheriff tried to keep calm. "You know that he did it." Mr. Hedgens' large face turned purple with rage, and moisture appeared in the corners of the eyes. "He is the same wolf brat. What was his father? Give it to us, or we'll come back at night with torches and guns to do justice." It seemed a little more, and Tom Hedgens will pay. Or rush at the sheriff right now, not waiting for sunset, and crush it like a piece of clay with their huge hands. "Problems, sheriff." Sheriff's assistant, pulling the shutter of the pump gun, stood behind the aggressively minded visitor. "No, Mr. Hedgens is already leaving." The sheriff pointed that to his buddies on door. At night, the sheriff threw his hygiene and walked out of the precinct. Before twilight, nothing happened exactly. Round clock ticking under the ceiling, counting down time. Then the phone rang. The assistant picked up the phone. "How will not that you? Here's the devil sheriff. There will be no transport. Called from management. Bridge over river blown away by flood. They will have to go around. Will appear at best tomorrow morning. It's not gender bent. This is their handwork. Take a gun and get comfortable on the roof," told the sheriff to the assistant, "and I will stay here." Sherry took the carbine and locked the door, arranging a shooting position at the window. 30 men with torches and guns, in white masks, gathered outside the police station, already in half an hour, led by the largest man, whose figure was easily guessed by Mr. Hedgens. "We came for him, as promised, Sheriff, according to the law about fathers that commanded us to conduct a witch hunt of werewolves, vampires and demons disturbing the sleep of civilians at night. We came today to do justice." He screamed, "Give it to us and no one gets hurt." Man's shot in the air, for more convincing of their words. "Will not come out hut. The guy will be judged by law," shouted the sheriff out the window. The hut pointed the gun towards the site, but the shot came from somewhere on top from the roof, forcing the attackers to bend their heads and crumble down the street, hiding behind the trees, the corners of the buildings and the pickups they drove. A fight ensued. There were 10 times more attackers. An elimination of 2 precinct defenders was only a matter of time. Bullets smashed the glass, forcing the sheriff to hide behind the precinct wall. Sticking out for a moment, he took a couple shots to keep the attackers from getting close to the doors, and immediately cleaned back up, and plaster fell from the window frame next to him. Knocked out by lead shot. The sheriff ducked and moved to another window. Another shot from the roof, and one of the attackers, clutching my stomach, donkey to the ground. After a flurry of back shots, shooters on the roof no longer showed itself. The boy behind the bars of metal bars suddenly bent arc. His cellmate biker scared away. But the boy just fell on the cement floor and went quiet. A pack of wolves with gray shadows entered the city. A new leader led them forward through the streets of the city, and no one dared to disobey, though instinct shouted them run away from the human lair. The new leader wasn't the biggest or strongest in the pack, but was the smartest, and already managed to prove his right to leadership. It's almost human mind always found a way to feed the pack or win a fight. When someone encroached on his power, so they followed him uncomplainingly. Wolves' inaudible gray wave appeared behind the attackers' backs, passionate about the rage of battle. They rushed at the shooters, surrounded the area from all sides, unexpected for them, and tipping people with guns to the ground, ripped their throats. Shots replaced by cries of pain and horror. Short distance people had no chance. Several people managed to get into the pickup truck, drowning the gas pedal in the floor to hide. A couple of wolves left lying on the pavement. It was over in a matter of minutes. Transport for the transport of prisoners appeared in the morning. Commission of Inquiry found out that blood on Billy's hands and robe. Salavana belongs to Rabbit, and he was acquitted. In the forest, a wildlife trapping service was organized. Big hunting raid. But the pack of wolves seemed to disappear, dissolving in the forest, bypassing all the flags and traps and hunters' lurks, going off to distant hunting grounds. Sheriff's deputy discharged from hospital after a month and a half and was presented for the award. Those attackers at the precinct that survived and fled were identified thanks to cameras on the facade, and they were charged. Amy Kimmel graduated the same year from school and went to Hollywood, California State. We're failing a few castings for minor roles. Back home, Isaac is Lavinian completed his studies 2 years later, soon founded a company in the field of IT technology, which for the year reached a capitalization of $100 million. And he never hired former football players. 17 years after the events described, a month before the procession of the new blood moon, to the editors of the site Magic, I received an anonymous letter with the following content. Respected editorial colleagues, thank you for that information. What you have collected and presented on your website, the effects of the blood moon on humans. However, please make adjustments on the phenomenon of werewolf so as not to mislead a possible reader. I have studied this issue in detail and related folk beliefs, and I can state with confidence that physical transformation of man into a beast, exactly like in Bedtime, not happening. There is only the fact of merging minds. When a person sleeps, the beast is awake at night, and during the day the opposite happens. In most cases, the advantage in making a decision remains for the person, but the beast is always invisibly present in the mind and claims his rights, sometimes even when a person is awake. During particularly strong experiences or during the blood moon, the beast can take over consciousness, man, and subjugate his actions to their instincts. So really during this period, it is better not to sleep at all. Animal flair can give a lot to a person. Our society in its development, not that far from pack laws. This is most evident in childhood and adolescence, when the social superstructure is not vaccinated yet and kids act almost like animals. During this period especially, it's important to let the inner beast protect you. Don't hold it in a cage. Consciousness rules, and let him occupy his niche in the pack. Man in turn can give the animal that most valuable, what is his mind. And in this symbiosis both win. And negative moments like epileptic seizures, they are only a side effect of communication between man and its if you want totem. With respect, Anonymous. On this release is finished. Hope you liked it. Write sure about it in the comments. And if you want to help develop the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe to him. See you soon in the new issue.